It is just before 7:50 Monday morning, July the 13th, 2015. I am Grant McHill alongside Storm Kennedy.
And he is Eugene Police Chief Pete Kerns in studio with us, as he is each and every second Monday of the month. Good morning, Chief. Thanks for being here.
Good morning. Thank you for having me.
Well, Chief, last week we spoke with House Speaker Tina Kotek about the closing of the legislative session. I'm curious, did the closing or the legislative session at all affect Eugene Police?
Well, there were quite a few law enforcement related bills, and I'll just go over a couple of them if you like. First of all, we asked the legislature to consider a pre-employment polygraph for police. It's not allowed in Oregon, although Oregon's one of only a handful of states that don't polygraph police candidates. In Oregon's law enforcement history, there's been a number of people who are police officers who've been arrested for crimes we probably could have prevented had we been able to polygraph them before they were hired. So that bill didn't pass this session, but I'm confident that eventually it can, and we'll take another run at it next session. And then the legislature passed a racial profiling bill that defines profiling and defines it by saying police are forbidden from targeting an individual based solely on age, race, ethnicity, color, national origin, language, gender identity, sexual orientation, political affiliation, religion, homelessness, or disability. And then it also enables people to make complaints about racial profiling to the governor's Law Enforcement Contacts Commission, and I happen to be a member of the Contacts Commission, so I think that's a good change. And then body-worn video has been in the news this last year, and we have a number of officers that are wearing body-worn video, downtown officers, traffic enforcement unit officers, and also some other patrol officers, and we found it to be pretty useful. Downtown officers wouldn't go out without it, and it sure helps them collect evidence of the crimes that happen in their presence. And so this law gave some definition to when the public can have access to those video files. And then another item that's been in the news recently has been the incidents of people publicly recording police when the police are involved in their work on the street. And what will happen is that someone who will want to record what an arrest that a police officer is making, and the officer will ask them to step back. These often happen in alcohol-fueled interactions, and so the person will at times who's recording be arrested for interfering with a police officer because they're standing too close, making their job difficult. So the legislature tried to give some definition to what's allowed and not allowed here, and I think that could be helpful. And then recreational marijuana, some of the rules around sales and distribution and possession were refined by the legislature, and those are available online and pretty easy to get to. Short story is, in order to use and possess marijuana, you have to be 21 years old or older. There can be no public use, can only be done in your home and not where it's visible by the public. You can't possess any more than 8 ounces at home and not more than 4 plants and 1 ounce on one's person if you happen to be in a public place. And then driving under the influence of marijuana continues to be illegal. Our practices won't change there. We've been arresting people for this for many years. The legislature will eventually determine what a blood alcohol content for THC will be, and that will become a standard. Other states have already gone there. And then the last item I had has to do with our hiring these days, and I can talk about that if you like.
Yeah, but first I wanted to ask you about the marijuana law. Are you seeing, Wednesday it'll be 2 weeks in which recreational marijuana was made legal. What are you seeing in terms of policing? Are you seeing lots of incidents? Not many. What are you seeing so far?
We're not seeing much enforcement. A year ago, we cited quite a number of people in the in the first weeks of July for possession of less than an ounce of marijuana. And this year, I think we've issued 2 citations so far in July. So I think people are being responsible for the most part, but I'm sure that we're going to have to pay attention to it and help remind people to obey the law.
And before we get to the recruiting process, Chief, with the legislative process, are you happy with how it went? Are you dissatisfied with anything? Are you looking forward to some changes? Can you kind of give your personal opinion on some of this?
I think the legislature did a pretty responsible job. It was, strongly Democratic body this year, and so the Democratic Party got quite a number of things done that they intended to. I am disappointed that the pre-employment polygraph didn't pass, but I'm confident that it eventually can. So I think it was a good year.
Well, you said at Eugene Police now looking for more police officers. What makes a good Eugene police officer in your opinion?
Well, we're hoping to attract people who have some life experience, who are mature, and who are of good character, who have sharp minds, who are physically fit, and who possess a resilient and can-do spirit. And I know there are people in jobs right now who may have never considered law enforcement before, but I can tell you that it's an exciting career. It's been an absolute joy for me as a police officer my entire career, and I know it is for most of our employees. So I hope that people who may not have considered it previously will look into it, and those who have a desire to be in law enforcement recognize that this is an opportunity to jump at it. We have a career night on July 15th, and there will also be an opportunity during that event for people to learn about 911 operations and the availability of jobs there too.
So what's the process like to apply?
Anyone who applies, there will be screening, of course, of the application to make sure the applicant meets minimum qualifications. But then those who go on take a what's known as the Police Officer Physical Agility Test, known as the POPAT, and also a cognitive test, which is similar to a civil service exam in order to measure one's ability to make decisions and to put a few facts together and come to a rational conclusion. And then there's interviews by an interview panel of sergeants, and then ultimately a background check and psychological exam, and then we hire folks, and they go through the police academy, both locally and at the state.
Very good. So the first step would be Wednesday, career night. What time is that and where is it?
You'll have to go online. I don't have the time with me right here, but it's been a pretty popular event for us. We get a lot of people who show up, and there's a lot to learn. The Eugene Police Department has a recruitment team that we put together this year, recognizing that we're going to have a lot of vacancies to fill. So I hope people show up and learn a little more about it.
Eugene Police Chief Pete Kerns. Chief, as always, thank you for your time.
You are welcome.